Good afternoon to all. Thank you, Stuart. It is really exciting to be here and to have an opportunity to share with you some of our work and some of the failures that we have gone through. So as I was thinking about this presentation, I struggled quite a bit about how to approach it. And then in having conversations with my co-director, Dan Rostein, he said, well, Luz, the conference is about failure. So there is no way that you could fail. So I'm testing that out. And, whoops, something is not working. It's the presenter view, right? I'm failing already with the PowerPoint.
It's not in there.
It's presenter view.
I think it should be. Let's see. Here we are.
There we go. So as I thought about the presentation, I thought about our work, and we have been for many years doing what is called non-formal education. And I decided to present some of our work in the classroom, but I would also like to take you outside the classroom to look at education and then how can it help people participate, advocate, navigate, and deal with failure. So I'm going to present around the welfare office, the schools, and then another secret place where failure happens quite a bit that is affecting us all. So first, in the welfare office, this is a place where people are very often reminded of their failure of not being self-sufficient. I know this well because this was the place where I was years ago, but it was a place which also became an opportunity to get better, to be able to help myself and participate in many decisions affecting myself and my community. And I had that opportunity only because my social worker was thinking outside of the box about his work and about how to take the encounter at the welfare office as an opportunity to build skills and to help people help themselves. And at the beginning, I thought that he was sort of, crazy because I was expecting services, and he said, no. The first thing that we have to do is to help you learn how you can navigate the system to get the services that you need. Now, that was years ago, and he did a good job. And sometimes I say, I don't know if it was because of what he did in teaching me to do little things, or if it was because I got too tired from his insistence that I could help myself. I was a migrant, and I could not thread together two sentences in English. Not that I can really do it today, but those days it was even worse. So what I have learned over time is that what happened to me years ago is still happening to many people. And people out there right now have around 100 million encounters with programs, services, and institutions. And these are places where very often they are reminded that they are failing, sometimes that they don't deserve the services that they are applying for. And right now, in 2012, there were approximately 5,200 million people who were in some sort of government assistance programs, at the welfare office, at the schools, food stamps. And I know that that's still going on. I know it because of my neighbors, friends, and people in my community. But those encounters could be opportunities for education. And in education, just the workers need to start thinking about a different way to provide these services. Now, from being a welfare recipient, I sort of got lucky, and I'm not going to go through the whole story. But back in 1990, I began to work with Dan Rostein, my co-director. And we were working in the town where I still live, Lawrence, Massachusetts, and in a dropout prevention program. And it was there where we learned from the families that they were not going to the schools because they didn't even know what questions to ask. When we heard that they didn't know what questions to ask, guess what we did? We came up with a list of questions that we thought that they should be asking. And they showed us that we were wrong because it was not about giving the questions, it was about developing the skill so they could they could ask questions in any situation that they were in. We failed initially in teaching them how to ask the question. In fact, we were not doing that. And we built dependency. And every time that they needed questions, they used to come back and say, what should I ask? When we began to teach them how to ask questions and advocate for themselves, there was some sort of transformation in people. So for example, this quote is from a participant in an adult education program who said that the teacher taught her how to ask questions, and she learned how to go to places with it. Before, I had doormat written across my forehead. And here I have a quote from a workshop participant in a homeless shelter in Kentucky who said, whatever it takes to get the information I need. So teaching people how to ask questions allows them to become information seekers rather than being dependent on information given to them. So in the schools, well, here is what college presidents say what students should learn in college. In 2002, the New York Times conducted an interview of college presidents. And Leon Boston, the president of Bard College, said that the primary skills should be analytical skills of interpretation and inquiry. In other words, know how to frame a question. And then Nancy Cantor, the former chancellor of the University of Illinois, said that the best we can do for students is to have them ask the right questions. So there was a 1912 study from Romiet Stevens, who said that the question as a measure of efficiency in instruction, a critical study of classroom practice, Columbia University. An unusual lesson because 25 of the 34 students were asked by the questions were asked by the pupils. The result was that the lesson developed an impetus born of real interest. I mention it because this lesson was unique in a series of 100. And then there is this guy, another guy from Columbia University, last name Firestein, who says that we must teach students how to think in questions, how to manage ignorance. We have been using this quote quite a bit with educators, and it really resonates with them. All right, so that was what college presidents said. You know, Firestein mentioned the value of question formulation, yet only 27% of students believe college taught them how to ask questions. And this is from a study from the University of Washington in 2016. But the problem begins long before college. So here I have a chart with basic skill attainment, reading and writing. And as you can see, it starts at 0, and as year go by, those two skills begin to improve until they level off. But here is what happens with the skill of question formulation. At age 2, kids ask many, many questions to the point of driving parents crazy. But then that skill declines drastically. When students learn to ask questions, this is what they have to say. The way it made me feel was smart because I was asking good questions and giving good answers. Now, I'm using this quote because this is a ninth grader in a remedial summer program who was about to fail. So asking questions really helped him feel better about himself, and feeling smart probably was not a word that he was previously thinking and using. All right. So let me go 1 second back. So what we have done is to develop a very specific process in which there is a focus or topic for asking questions. And then we have developed some rules that provide some safety in asking questions. The rules are: ask as many questions as you can, do not stop to try to judge or answer the questions, write down the question exactly as it is stated, and turn any statements into questions. So participants, regardless of whether they are in a social services agency or at the school, they produce questions following the rules. They identify different kinds of questions. They prioritize the questions, provide a rationale for prioritizing the questions, and then they establish an action plan, and the final step is to reflect. Reflect on the process that they went through and also on the topic that they were asking questions about. And that has proven to be a very efficient way of teaching people how to ask questions. It works in the community, and it works from kindergarten to higher education. So what we have said is that the question formulation technique process is a rigorous protocol that produces consistent results. There is a real science behind the process. When we began to do this work in the classroom, it was in 2010. We were working across fields, and then we were broke. About 1 week to put the padlock in the door in our office. And then Harvard Education Press invited us to put our ideas in a publication. And my co-director looks at me and says, there is nothing that we are going to learn, but maybe this is a way of getting funding, so let's do it. And these days, he says, I was really, really wrong, because we have learned quite a bit from doing it. Right now, there are 250,000 teachers around the world who are using our process to help students produce their own questions. Now, here is another place that maybe I don't have to go in, where, as you know, we have sort of failed. And in this place, probably failure is not a good thing. All right, and one of the challenges is that traditional forms of democratic participation have failed as well. So the efforts in lobbying, in community organizing, in public hearings, in demonstrations, all those, they have an effect, but they don't really get the majority of people to participate and vote. When the presidential elections, there is a bump in participation, but that is not sustained. Now, let's look at this. Remember that I told you when I began about all the encounters that people have with programs and services. There are 164 million of those. And those could be opportunities to educate people to participate. Because if we teach them how to participate, And I have two very specific skills for that. One is the skill of asking questions, and the other one is the skill of being able to identify decisions and asking questions about decisions. Then I think that they will be able to make a difference. And in this picture, I have two women. The women in the right, few people know about her. And the woman in the left, very few people know about her. The woman in the right, many people know about her work. The woman in the left is Septima Clark, and the one in the right is Rosa Parks. And it happened that Septima in the 70s, she was fired from her job as a teacher in the South Carolina public schools. And she founded citizen schools and decided to teach people with low literacy how to inquire. So I would like to leave you with this thing. If you want to make changes, if you want to help people deal with the issue of failure, there is no skill better than the skill of question formulation.